Hello everyone, my name is Sean and welcome to SpeechLeech, where I learn a new language that you, the audience, vote for based off of 4 choices, and today, beginning with the letter F. After you've watched the video, please take a moment to vote for the language that you personally have found the most interesting and the one that you'd like me to learn on my Instagram story at I'm Sean Get Off My Lawn or on strawpoll.com for the next 24 hours, the link of which is going to be in the description below. Yeah, I'm still a bit fuzzy about the scheduling of this whole project, and I want to do my best to keep staying consistent because I love making these videos, so stay tuned. In any case, let's learn some random facts about some random languages, shall we? First off, introducing the Faroese language, also known as Faroese. Faroese is native to the Faroe Islands, spoken by about 70 to 80,000 people. It's part of the North Germanic branch of the Indo-European language family and is written using the Latin script. The Faroe Islands, known as Føroyar, can be found in the North Atlantic, located about 320 kilometers north of Scotland and being pretty much halfway in between Iceland and Norway. Absolutely majestic scenery with unreal mountains and cliffs, and oh my god, do I just want to go hiking there. The Faroe Islands had been a part of the Kingdom of Norway for almost 800 years, until 1814, when the Treaty of Kiel was signed during the Napoleonic Wars, transferring the Faroe Islands, along with Greenland and Iceland, to the Kingdom of Denmark. In the 1880s, a sort of national awakening began, with people struggling to preserve and maintain the Faroese culture, language, and identity. The movement was gradually becoming more political, as people began feeling even more separate from Denmark and wanted their own home rule. In 1937, Faroese replaced Danish as the official school language, and in 1938 as the church language. And then, in 1946, the Faroe Islands even had an independence referendum, which was so close, with yes independence being ever so slightly in the lead by just over 1%. Alas, it was annulled by the Danish government and kind of thrown out, but then just 2 years later, in 1948, the Faroe Islands were given home rule, and today it makes them a self-governing autonomous region of the Kingdom of Denmark. One of the many changes that followed was making Faroese the official national language of the Faroe Islands. Nevertheless, Faroese didn't really catch on as a common language of media and advertising until the 1980s. Faroese is definitely the most common language in the islands. Out of a population of about 52,000 people, over 90% of the population claim to lead their daily lives in Faroese. There are also an additional 25,000 Faroese speakers living in Denmark, and then another 5,000 living in Iceland. Faroese is one of the 5 big official North Germanic languages, with its closest relatives being Icelandic and Norwegian, as well as Danish and Swedish, and even Elfdalian, about which I made a separate video that you should totally go check out. And just like other North Germanic languages, Faroese has a huge number of vowels, counting around 26 total, including short and long. This makes it really hard to learn to speak Faroese fluently without an accent. Basically, if you're learning Faroese from scratch, especially never before being exposed to any other North Germanic languages, you'll probably forever remain a foreigner in the eyes of a native speaker. Let's see if I can prove them wrong. Probably not. This took a lot of practice and I'll still sound extremely wrong, probably. Ulmenisju eru frod freld og joven til virringar og mannaratende. De hava skill og samvitsku og eiga a farahor til manannande brotheranda. Another cool random fact is that despite only having one Nobel Prize laureate, because of its small population, the Faroe Islands actually have the most Nobel Prize laureates per capita in the whole world. So, yeah. Next up, the Fijian language, also known as Navosavakaviti. With its many green, lush coasts and crystal-clear blue water lagoons, Fiji is truly a tropical paradise with many hidden treasures. And one of these treasures is the Fijian language. Fijian is native to Fiji, where it's spoken by about 350 to 450,000 people as a first language and an additional 250-ish thousand as a second language. Fijian is part of the Malayo-Polynesian branch of the Austronesian language family, one of the largest language families in the world. Stretching out from the Philippines to Easter Island, from Hawaii to Madagascar, the Austronesian languages can be heard far and wide all across the Indian and Pacific Oceans. So Fijian is distantly related to Malay, Indonesian, Tagalog, Maori, Hawaiian, and a ton of others. One of the unifying features of this language family is the word for the number 5, which is Lima, or something really similar. You'll even see memes online and stuff, people saying Lima gang. Getting a bit off topic here, but basically, unless you're talking about Peru, if you hear the word Lima, think Austronesian languages. Fijian is a bit special in this group, however. You see, Fijian is actually a VOS language, which means its basic word order is verb-object-subject. English, for example, is an SVO language, and we can see that if we take a basic sentence like I eat apples, for example, and see that the subject is followed by the verb, which is followed by the object. So taking the Fijian word order, this sentence would be eat apples I, which isn't very intuitive, is it? Well, for them, us English speakers might sound like a bunch of weirdos, putting the subject first and then the verb and then the object. Though probably not. They are definitely the weirdos here, because only about 3% of the entire world's languages have VOS as their default word order, which is nuts, so Fijian is definitely quite out there. Another really cool and difficult thing about Fijian is its extensive system of pronouns. Now, Fijian has three persons, just like English, where first person is the speaker, I, we, second person is the addressee, you, and third person is all the others, he, she, it, they. Now, while English distinguishes two numbers, singular and plural, Fijian has four, with the addition of dual, which is used when there are only two of something, and pokal, which is used when there is a group of more than two people that have some kind of relationship, so like a family, a class, a work group. On top of that, there's an additional layer of complexity, because all the pronouns have to be marked for clusivity, meaning that all pronouns can either be exclusive or inclusive. This means there's a difference between we, which refers to you and I, and we, which refers to he, she, it, them, and I, but not you. All in all, there are so many of these pronouns, and each of them can have up to 5 different forms, especially if you include possession, and it's cool, but like, why? Let's have a go at reading some. Era sutu e nagalala na tamata yadua, era tautauwata e nanodra dokai, kei nanodra dodonu. E tiko nanodra wakasama, kei nanodra lewa eloma, sa dodonu merave dokadokai, e nayalo niveita thini. Sounds really cool, but also an absolute headache of a grammar. Next up, the Farsi language, also known as Persian. Now, I wasn't sure whether to include this one under the letter P for Persian, because that's technically the English name for it, or Farsi, because even though that's a native name for it, I'd argue that it's known as that just as commonly in English as it is under the name Persian, but the letter P does have like 10 times the amount of language the letter F has, so I guess I'm going with Farsi. Also, quick disclaimer, it's probably going to end up being one of the most spoken languages in the entire series, so don't go voting for it right away just because it's the most useful, but do vote for it right away if you think it's the most interesting. Farsi is spoken in Iran and the surrounding regions, and is a native language of 70 to 80 million people, and is spoken worldwide by over 100 million. It's part of the Iranian branch of the Indo-European language family, and is written using a modified version of the Arabic script. For thousands of years all throughout history, Farsi was used by countless kingdoms and empires as a prestigious and cultural language. There have been thousands upon thousands of notable literary works and poems and books written in Farsi, cementing its place as an indivisible part of Central Asian culture and tradition. Due to its extensive literary tradition, which hasn't changed much over the centuries, it's crazy to realize that poems written over 1,000 years ago can still be understood relatively well by your average speaker of Farsi today. The Arabic script was adapted to be used to write Farsi as early as the 7th century AD, after the spread of Islam to the region. Arabic has had a massive influence on Farsi not just in writing, but in vocabulary as well. Different sources estimated between 25 to 40% of Farsi vocabulary is of Arabic origin, the majority of which is related to science and religion, but still. Nevertheless, Farsi has had its own fair share of influence on the vocabulary and structure of other languages as well. For different reasons and at different times, traces of Persian vocabulary may be found from Turkish to Indonesian, from Georgian to Albanian, from Telugu to English. That's right, words such as assassin, bazaar, chess, orange, magic, and rank, and possibly hundreds of others are derived from Persian sources. There are 2 other notable varieties of Persian, and those are Dari, spoken in Afghanistan, and Tajik, spoken in Tajikistan. We had Dari as one of our choices for the letter D, and just as I said in that video, the 3 and a few other languages and dialects form a dialect continuum, and are all at different stages of mutual intelligibility. From what I see, they can all sort of kind of understand each other, but the further northeast you go from Iran proper, the foggier and more difficult it gets to understand. Another quick cool thing about Farsi is that it doesn't have grammatical gender, to the point where the language doesn't distinguish between he, she, or it, and they're all expressed using the same pronoun, O. Now, I'm a bit rusty at my Arabic reading, and Farsi has additional letters that I'm not too sure of, but I looked them up, and I'm gonna have a little go at reading some. Tamam afrad bashar azad badanya maynad o az lehaz Heishit o Hokok Baham Barabarant. I'm so sorry. To any Farsi speakers out there watching, that was horrendous, and I apologize for making you sit through that. Next up, the Frisian language, also known as Frisk, specifically West Frisian or Westerlauwersk Frisk. Why specifically? Because there are actually 3 variants of the Frisian language. West Frisian with around 450,000 speakers, North Frisian with about 8 to 10,000 speakers, and Saterland Frisian, aka East, with around 2,000 speakers. The three are not really mutually intelligible between each other, with West Frisian being by far the most spoken one, and it has the most resources to learn it online, so... West Frisian is native to and is a recognized regional language in the province of Friesland in the Netherlands, where it's the native language for over half of the population. The rest may be found in other regions of the Netherlands, such as Groningen and Flevoland, as well as the many diasporas around the world, such as in Canada, US, and Australia. Frisian is part of the West Germanic branch of the Indo-European language family, and more specifically, it's an Anglo-Frisian language, just like English. This means that Frisian is probably the closest foreign language out there related to English. What? That's right, folks. Old English and Old Frisian, I'm talking like 1,000 years ago, were very similar to each other, to the point where, if you spoke one, you could probably understand a decent amount of the other one. Since then, of course, the languages diverged rapidly, with English absorbing a ton of vocabulary from elsewhere, like French. Nevertheless, the grammar is still quite similar, and there are plenty of words that would still be recognizable. There's even this one fun rhyme that demonstrates the similarity between the two. Bread, butter, and green cheese is good English and good Fries, or Brea, butter en green cheese is good Engelsk and good Friesk. Basically, if Dutch is in between English and German, Frisian is in between English and Dutch. Everything related to the Frisian language development, research, and education is regulated by the Friska Academy, or the Frisian Academy, founded in 1938. Now, it's an official school subject, and people may request official government documents in Frisian, and apparently, you can take an oath in Frisian in any court anywhere in the Netherlands, which is pretty cool. And that about wraps it up for today. Today, we travel to the rugged and misty cliffs of the Faroe Islands, the sunny tropical palm-filled beaches of Fiji, the green and mountainous expanses of the Middle East, and ended in the marshy lowlands of Central Europe. If Frisian gets picked as the winner for this week, it would probably be one of the easiest choices I can expect in this series in general, which would certainly make my life easier. Nah, once again I'm gonna ask you to vote for the one that you found the most interesting personally, and no matter how useful or how useless or how difficult or how easy a language is, it should be acknowledged and learned. Please vote for the next 24 hours on my story and Instagram at I'mSeanGetOffMyLawn or on Stropple.com, the link of which is going to be in the description below. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, see you soon, and peace out.